California. Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Today we have ourselves quite a show, as we have a lot to get to in the world of Southern California sports, such as the Chargers have won 3 in a row, as they kicked down the Tennessee Titans 27-17. But now the schedule gets tougher, as they have a prime-time matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Chargers keep it going against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Also, the Rams had a clunker game as they lost to the Miami Dolphins. It was very frustrating at the league as they have to get back on track against the New England Patriots on the road. Also, LAFC wound up winning their win-or-go-home match against the Vancouver Whitecaps. Now they face another big rival in the Seattle Sounders. And LAFC rises to the challenge. Also, the Lakers have been up and down, but they are actually undefeated at home, which is pretty good. Same week is good for the Clippers. They won 4 in a row, now they've lost 2 straight. Both teams kick off the NBA Cup pool play today. Also, UFC Women's Supervision makes it for quite the right reasons, as Juju Watkins became the 4th fastest player in NCAA Division I history to crack 1,000 points, and the fastest coach to do so as well. All that more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your best feed for all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon, Friday morning, Friday evening, Friday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way to episode 201 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We're trying to crack 500 subscribers as fast as possible. Hopefully, we do so by the end of November. With your help, we can make that happen. Also, make sure to check out our website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, our merchandise shop, where you can cop all sorts of IE Sports Radio sweaters, t-shirts, tank tops, and all sorts of merchandise. Also, check out our Hall of Fame, where I am the 10th inductee. And make sure to check out everything else on the IE Sports Radio website as well. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Before we get out into the SoCal sports action, we have to give a little shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. Also, we want to talk to you all about what IE Sports Radio is all about. So without any further delay, let's do this.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing sponsors, such as Seal the Deal Wax Seals and Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. And make sure to check out our website. Once again, the link to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show via iesportsradio.com is right down below. And without any further delay, let us begin, as we need to talk some Chargers because, well, first, before we talk some Chargers, make sure to follow the SoCal Supreme Sports Show on social media at SoCal Show IESR on X. And you can follow me personally, the host, Teran Rodriguez, on X as well, at Teran Rodriguez 1. All right, now let's start Chargers. Let's talk Chargers. As kind of came out a little slow, but they were able to take down the Tennessee Titans 27-17. It was kind of one of those ugly games to start, as Chargers got all the way down to the 2 on their opening drive, but they just couldn't punch it in, as they settled for a field goal. Titans eventually got their first touchdown from Will Levis all the way to Calvin Ridley. So it was 7-3 in favor of the Titans through the first quarter. Second quarter, just like the previous drive for the Chargers, they only settled for a field goal. And then eventually the Titans got all the way into Chargers territory, but unfortunately they just couldn't cash in. So yeah, this is one of those weird games where the Chargers didn't really feel like the Titans were ever out of it, but the defense just did its job as eventually they forced a punt on the Titans' next drive, and the Chargers eventually made him pay for it. Actually, no, it was a missed field goal. I'm sorry, I'm looking too far ahead. So, yeah, the Titans missed a field goal, which that could have been so useful last year when the two teams faced, but whatever. But eventually the Chargers took advantage of the missed field goal. They got a touchdown. And that was pretty much the only score after that, as the Chargers went into halftime up 13-7. It wasn't kind of a blowout-y half, as the Titans were hanging around, which isn't really like the Chargers. They really need to, put the foot on the throat against a team like that, because they don't really have too much to play for. They're playing for that number one pick. Eventually, the Chargers got another touchdown again, as this time it was Quentin Johnston from Justin Herbert. And eventually, the Chargers got another touchdown from Hassan Haskins. And the Titans eventually got a garbage time touchdown, as eventually the Chargers wound up winning 27-17. So it was one of those games where the Chargers didn't really blow out the Titans, but the Titans were just hanging around. But the Chargers defense really came up big. I think they sacked Will Levis 7 times, which was pretty good if you ask me. So honestly, I had a feeling the Chargers would win. The Chargers need all the wins that they could get, just because if the Chargers don't, it would have been losses like that that could have held the Chargers out of the postseason. So yeah, it's a good win for the Chargers. I'm happy they won. Patty Bax pops in the chat room. She says, "Have a great show, Teran." And she also says, congrats, Teran, on your Chargers. Yeah, it wasn't the prettiest win, but, I'd rather have a win instead of a loss. That's the big thing right there. So, Chargers have won 3 in a row, albeit most of their opponents haven't been eye-popping other than the Broncos, as now the Chargers turn their attention to their Sunday night matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals. So, the Bengals' record is very misguiding. They've obviously played a tough schedule, and they've played a lot of good teams. I feel the Bengals are going to be the first big test for the Chargers, because now it really gets tough for the Chargers, because after the Bengals, they've got the Ravens, which that's going to be a tough matchup. And then they've got the Falcons at Atlanta, which that's going to be a pretty tough matchup, even though the Falcons have kind of been up and down. And then after that, they're at Kansas City for another primetime game. And then they've got the Bucs, which they should expect to see Mike Evans back. They've got the Broncos, which that could possibly be for a playoff spot. So, yeah, that's gonna be a fun one. And then they kind of have a little bit of a breather going into the final 2 games. They've got the Patriots and at the Raiders to close out the regular season. But yeah, the Chargers, this is their chance to possibly cement themselves as a possible contender, because the Bengals game is going to be 50-50, because Jamar Chase has been playing lights out. Joe Burrow has also been playing amazing as well. But the way the Chargers can take advantage of that is by working the clock and chewing up all of it so that the Bengals don't get a whole lot of time to operate. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough one. Like I think the Bengals come into this game 4-6, I want to say. Either way, that is a very misguiding sub-500 team. Yeah, 4-6, the 3-2 away. This is going to be one of those, I wouldn't say tough matchups, but everyone is, because the Bengals need this win just as much as the Chargers do. The Chargers, if they win, that makes their case for being a wildcard team a lot stronger. But if the Bengals lose, then that makes their path to the playoffs a lot tougher, which I'm guessing that's why most people are taking the Bengals over the Chargers, because they are in desperate need of a win, and Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow have been balling out. It also doesn't help that the Bengals get T. Higgins back, which, oh, God, that's going to be tough. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And the running attack isn't too bad either. I think Chase Brown is his name. He's been solid for the Bengals. And then they've also got Mike Gesicki. So the Chargers are going to have their hands full in this game. I really want the Chargers to pull out the win, because this might be their most winnable primetime game that they have on the slate, because next week they are at home against the Ravens on primetime on a Monday Night Football. And then the following, or then 2 weeks after that, they're on Sunday Night Football against the Kansas City Chiefs, which, Patty, if you're still listening, please have the Bills beat the Chiefs. They're probably the only ones that could probably beat the Chiefs going forward. Maybe the Steelers, but honestly, yeah, do us a solid, beat those Chiefs. But anyway, back to the Chargers. This one's going to be a tough one for the Chargers. This one could go either way. This is actually the battle of the number one pick in the 2019 the 2020 draft versus the number 5 pick from the 2020 draft, which interestingly enough, they're both quarterbacks. So the first picked quarterback from that draft takes on the third picked quarterback from that draft. So it's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be fun. I imagine it's going to be high scoring. And yeah, Patty Mac says the Bills have to beat the Chiefs. But for this game, I got the Chargers winning 31-24. Look, the Chargers have not put up 30 points this season. I don't know how they keep winning games, but they keep winning games, and they have not even had to put up 30 points. The most they put up was 27 against the Browns and the Titans, which I think is pretty cool. But they really got to show up big against the Bengals. I imagine it's going to be high scoring. I imagine Justin Herbert's going to need to air it out again for Ladd McConkey as well as Quentin Johnston. And expect to see the run game utilized quite a bit. I will be interested to see if J.K. Dobbins is playing. He should be playing based on how he only sat out practice because of rest. And they'll obviously have Gus Edwards. He actually led the Chargers in a rushing yard. So we'll see what happens, but this is going to be quite the fascinating matchup. It looks like Joey Bosa's back to his old self, as did not look like he popped up on the injury report. But this is going to be the only questionable ones for the Chargers are Khalil Mack and Dean Leonard. Now, Dean Leonard just came back from IR, but Khalil Mack has been battling injury, which really sucks. This really sucks for the Chargers as, yeah, their only two questionable ones are Dean Leonard and Khalil Mack, as Khalil Mack did not practice all week with a groin injury, and he's questionable. So that's a little interesting if you ask me. And then Dean Leonard, obviously, he just came back from IR. I don't really expect him to play, but if he does play, cool. Other than that, the Chargers have pretty much everybody that's not on IR. As, yeah, Joey Bosa had a full practice today. J.K. Dobbins, he had a rest day on Thursday, but he had a full practice day today. Gus Edwards, he was limited in practice the first 2 days, but had a full practice Friday. Christian Fulton had a full practice today. Dayon Headley had 2 full practices yesterday and today. Hayden Hurst had a personal thing, but he had 2 full practices. Excuse me for one quick second. Sorry about that. Had to get out a little bit of a cough, and hopefully you all didn't see that, but it's all good. Yeah, and other than that, Trey Pipkins had a full practice despite an ankle injury. Stone Smart, I guess I can throw his name in the fray. Now for the Bengals, Charlie Jones is out. I don't even know who that is, but yeah, he's out. Joe LeBeche is doubtful as he has a hip injury. Orlando Brown is questionable as he had a limited practice Thursday, but he did practice Wednesday and today. Orlando Brown's big for that offensive line for the Bengals. So, and then questionable is also B.J. Hill. So, hopefully, the Chargers can find a way to beat the Bengals, because this is big right here. This could be the game where the Chargers either make the playoffs or miss the playoffs. And I hope for this case, this doesn't become that game where it becomes the difference maker. I hope they just don't have a Arizona-like game where the defense was carrying the load the entire night, but the offense wasn't doing anything. So hopefully for the Chargers' sake, they can get her done. And I can't wait for that game. This game got flexed into primetime as originally it was supposed to be Colts-Jets, but honestly with how both teams have been playing, no one wants to see that poo-poo matchup. And I mentioned Chiefs-Bills this weekend. CBS didn't want to give up the rights to that matchup as well as the Ravens-Steelers game. So Sunday Night Football got the Chargers and the Bengals, which I think is cool. All right, but that is that for Chargers-Bengals. Now let's jump on over to the Rams. Oh, gosh. This one was ugly. The Rams had a little bit of a clunker game against the Dolphins. And honestly, my brother predicted this one correctly. The Rams if there was one game that the Rams were going to have as a clunker game, it was going to be against the Dolphins. Now, everyone expected the Dolphins to be a whole lot better than what we saw going into this match. But obviously, injuries to Tua really dampened them. So, as for the Rams, it was not fun. They lost 23 to 15 against those Dolphins, which really sucks because that snaps the Rams' 3-game win streak. And they need all the wins that they can get, just because it's games like this that could keep them out of the playoffs. So it's unfortunate that the Rams lost, as they are back in action when they hit the road back east to take on those New England Patriots. Now, the Patriots game, this one has trap game written all over it, because the following week, the Rams are on Sunday Night Football when they host the Philadelphia Eagles, but this game has trap game written all over it. So the Rams really have to be locked in when it comes to the Patriots game. And the Patriots aren't the greatest team, but they could sneak up on a few teams. They've snuck up on a few teams, and they pulled off some interesting wins. Obviously, the first one that comes to mind is the one against the Bengals in Week 1. Then they also beat the Jets, which I thought was pretty funny. And then I forget who else they beat the Bears. So Bears, Jets, and Bengals are their only wins. Well, the Rams are looking to restart a new win streak. The Rams have to win this one. I think the Rams will win this one, but it's going to be a little uglier than expected. I really think. Thank you, Patty. She says, have a great rest of the show, and I hope I'm feeling a whole lot better. I'm trying to get on the mend. I'm pretty much well enough to do anything, but I'm not 100%. And Patty Mac says, it's a belated celebration for my birthday. Oh, well, happy birthday, Patty. Hope you have a great day. And yes, it is all good that you have to step away. But anyway, Rams, they got to win this one. If they lose this one, it's going to be tough sledding from here on out, because you got the Eagles, that's probably a loss. Saints, that's a win. I mean, currently they're 4-5, so that'd be maybe 5-6. Bills, probably a loss. That's 5-7. Niners, they're playing better, but I imagine it's going to be a loss, so 5-8. Jets, they should win 5. So at best, if the Rams lose this one, they could probably finish no better than 9-8, which I don't know if that gets them into the postseason. I really hope that's not the case, but I feel the Rams need this win in the worst way. And it's going to be tough playing at New England. It's going to be – they have to go all across the country, which is going to be a tough one. But I think the Rams can do it. I think the Rams can pull out the win, but it's going to be close. I got the Rams winning 24-16. I think the Rams can bounce back. They know the magnitude of this game. They know that every game going forward is pretty much a playoff game, because if they don't – the more they lose, the more they're going to be set back in terms of making the postseason. So I got the Rams winning that one, and they still have to keep pace with everyone in their division, because now that they lost, they're now a game and a half behind Arizona, which is not ideal. So, and they're also a full game back of the Niners. So the Rams have to get their you-know-what together, and they have to get their swagger back. So please, Rams, get the win over them Patriots. Take down Jared Mayonnaise and his stinking Patriots. But yeah, I got the Rams winning that one, and that should do it for the NFL portion of the show. I really want to see the Rams pull out the win, and as well as the Chargers, and hopefully they can get her done. All right, let's move on to some college football, as UCLA last week wound up beating Iowa 20-17, which was pretty darn impressive if you ask me. Now, I knew they would win. I knew UCLA would win, and I wasn't too far off with this matchup. I actually had UCLA winning 21-17, But I guess they chose to go for field goals and not touchdowns, which it is what it is. But yeah, the UCLA's won 3 in a row, and just when we thought they were dead in the water, they actually pull. They're actually back in act. They're back in turn. They're kind of back. I know all their wins have been via one score, I think, but UCLA has been looking pretty good going forward. I mean, winning at Nebraska was big. Winning at Rutgers was big. Yeah, all their wins have been one score games, which is pretty funny if you ask me. But now they're back in action as they host Washington tonight. Or actually, no, they don't host Washington. They're at Washington. They go to Husky Stadium to take on Washington. And look, Washington is not going to be easy. Washington is fighting for their bowl game lives. And honestly, I'm hoping for the best that UCLA can get this win, because if Washington wins, they're bowl game eligible. If UCLA wins, they're one step closer to becoming bowl game eligible. And this was going to be tough just because Washington's offense does look a whole lot, I would say, better on paper. But I will say UCLA's played great football as of late, and I'm hoping a lot. I expect a lot of good from UCLA. I think they can win, but it's going to be all about crossing their T's and dotting their I's, as well as, playing their game, playing their brand of football. So we'll see how it goes. But I got UCLA winning this one 24-21. I think UCLA pulls off the win, and I think they're able to get the job done, because if they win, they're only one win away from going bowling. And this was supposed to be a UCLA team that was supposed to finish near the bottom of the Big Ten standings. But yeah, UCLA under its first year head coach Deshaun Foster, they could be going bowling if they play their cards right. Now, if they somehow lose, they still have a chance to go bowling, but their path to going bowling gets a whole lot tougher, because they have 2 winnable games the following week. They've got USC at home, and then they've got Fresno State, which I want to say is at Fresno State. Actually, no, it's not. It's not Fresno State. It should be at UCLA. But yeah, UCLA has 2 very winnable games, and I expect them to get the job done. I'd be flabbergasted if they wound up losing to Fresno State. But yeah, the USC game could mean a whole lot more for those gutty little Bruins. But I think this week the UCLA gets the job done. They keep it going. It's going to be a one-score game, which is something that UCLA fans don't want to see. But that's just how it is. And UCLA, as long as they win in general, yeah, Fresno State and USC are both at home. Well, Fresno State, USC I knew was at home, but Fresno State, I just needed to confirm. But yeah, UCLA has a very good chance at going bowling. Their chances get even better if they win tonight. If they lose, then it gets a little dicey because they've got to win out. And with how USC is also playing, they're gonna be fighting for their bowl game lives as well. So there you have it right there for UCLA football. Next up, we go to San Diego State for their game, or to recap their game, as they lost a tough one to New Mexico, 21-16. So that puts San Diego State at 3-6 on the 3-6 on the year, as now they got to win out in order to become bowl game eligible. But they've got UNLV this week. They've got Utah State the following week. And then I think they have Fresno State to close out the season, which UNLV is going to be the tough one. Utah State, they should win that one. And then Fresno State is also going to be fighting for its bowl game lives, I think. But yeah, this was not good for San Diego State. They needed to win this game. Oh, they've got Air Force, which Air Force. I think Air Force is going to be interesting. They're 2-7, but they have a lot to play for. Utah State is also 2-7, but they don't have much to play for. Now, UNLV is kind of the only tough one. See, this is where winning last week would have been so great, but unfortunately, San Diego State has no form of assembly of a full 60-minute game. And it's very disappointing because New Mexico has had not New Mexico. San Diego State has had a lot of one-score losses. They lost to Central Michigan by 1 off a walk-off field goal. They lost to Washington State, which they were in that game for the most part. And then they lost to New Mexico, which they just did not show up in the fourth quarter. But against UNLV, look, I want to say San Diego State can win that one. And this game is tomorrow at 7:30, so it's at UNLV. But I just don't see San Diego State winning this one. So I got the Aztecs losing 28-17. Call me negative all you want, but honestly, I just don't see it. I just don't see how San Diego State just picks up the win. So give me the Rebels to win this one. Even though San Diego State, I expect them to fight a whole lot in this game. I expect them to basically come out swinging. They have to win this one just because, again, their bowl game lives are at stake, and they want to make a good first impression. Because if they win, their last 2 games are extremely winnable with Utah State and Air Force. Other than that, this one is probably the toughest one to win, and I just don't see how San Diego State. They lost 3 straight, but two of their losses during this 3-game losing streak were to good teams in Washington State and Boise State. So the New Mexico loss is starting to loom very large for San Diego State. All right, but that is that for San Diego State football. Now let's jump on over to USC football, and then we'll jump to a commercial break. So they're back in action after their bye. They couldn't really hurt me as they host Nebraska with Jade Mayava as the starting QB. So, yeah, this is going to be Jade Mayava's first start after Miller Moss got benched. Again, I feel bad for Miller Moss just because poor dude literally had one of the worst O-lines in college football. But them's the breaks. We live in a tough industry, and college football and USC is no joke in terms of its tough industry. But yeah, Jade Mayava, it's your time to shine, buddy. You got to come up big against Nebraska. Now, the good thing about SC this week is they're at home. They have been very successful at home, with the exception of one game being Penn State, but they were beating Penn State mostly up until the fourth quarter. But yeah, Nebraska, the USC should handle them. If UCLA can handle Nebraska at Nebraska, I think USC can handle Nebraska at the Coliseum. But it's going to be a tough one. The big thing is USC has got to win in the trenches. If they win in the trenches, then USC will win altogether. But if they don't win the trenches, then it's going to be a tough debut for Jade Mayava. But I got SC beating Nebraska 35-21. I think it's going to be a close one, but I got the Trojans pulling off the win. I think they could do it. Fight on. Please, USC. I swear if USC loses, there's going to be a lot of Trojan anger from me next week and on 3 and Out College Edition next week as well. So please do not screw this one up, SC, because you're making me really mad and you're dwindling my patience as well as USC fans' patience. But that's going to do it for the college football portion of the show. We're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we've got some MLS to discuss, some NBA to discuss, and a whole lot more. Keep it locked here. You are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Galise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports, and I will update you on all that's black and gold, and have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Galise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies,
And your one-timers,
you wicked wristas.
and be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as the Neutral Zone and the Injury Report. Now, the Injury Report normally goes live on Tuesdays at 2 p.m., but it's going to be on tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific time. You better watch it. It's definitely great. It's definitely a great show. Ralph Cleese does an excellent job with the show. And I definitely do appreciate Ralph and his commitments to... Oh, speaking of which, he says, "Good evening, Teran. Just jumping on to wish you a great show." And he says, "And my drop comes on. Awesome. Just remind the people." Yeah, I pretty much just did that. Yin's Report's going to be on tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern. So they have it right there. And definitely tune into that. I really recommend it. Ralph, once again, does an amazing job with his show with the Injury Report, so you won't want to miss it. But now let's jump on into some MLS action. So the MLS, as we all know, last week, LAFC had a win-or-go-home match as they took on the Vancouver Whitecaps, and they wound up winning 1-0. As I want to say, Mute Bouget was able to... It's the guy whose name I really can't pronounce for the love of me. But, yeah. Long story short, the Galaxy wound up winning. But it was in pretty ugly fashion, if you ask me. It was pretty ugly. But they had seen, Vancouver, 8 times, according to one of their players in the post-game interview, which is totally understandable. But when you see a team like that, they're going to eventually catch on to your strategy, and they're eventually going to do everything in their power to make sure you don't win. So, yeah, it was a big win for LAFC, because thank goodness they wound up winning that one. Imagine being the 1 seed in your conference and losing. I'm looking at you, Inter Miami. I'm looking at you. Imagine being the 1 seed in your conference and not advancing out of the first round. I'm going to try not to laugh too much, just because I don't want to die on air. But yeah, LFC picking up the win was big, as Bouget was the one that knocked in the goal for LAFC, and I think I might have laughed a little too much to the point where I might have a cough, but it's all good. All good. But yeah, LAFC advances as they will take on the Seattle Sounders. Big rivalry matchup, because that's a quarterfinal matchup, and the rest of the way, it's win or go home. So if LAFC loses this one, they're done. But the Seattle's going to be such a great matchup. That is probably going to be the matchup to end all matchups in terms of the Western Conference. And it's only the quarterfinals, mind you. So yeah, I expect a barn burner from both LAFC and from the Seattle Sounders. I would not be surprised if we saw fireworks, but that's not going to be for a while. So I think it's going to be on Saturday, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, where LAFC hosts Seattle Sounders. which that's going to be a fun matchup. It's basically the Final Four of the Western Conference, and I can't wait to see it. The only thing I will say is I think it's going to get overshadowed by the fact that New York City FC and the New York Red Bulls have their little Subway Series in the Eastern Conference Eastern Conference semifinals, and now it'll probably overshadow the LAFC Seattle matchup. But I digress. And then next Sunday, obviously the Galaxy have been waiting quite a bit as they have found out their opponent. They will face Minnesota United FC at Dignity Health Sports Park, which, fun fact, I was just there on Sunday. That'll be there. That'll be a 3 p.m. start match, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, as the Galaxy obviously took care of business against the Colorado Rapids. Now, Minnesota United is probably going to be an interesting matchup just because I feel Minnesota's like one of those. They're not the worst team, but they're obviously not the most eye-popping team. But the Galaxy just have to be careful because now that they're out of the first round, it's now win or go home time, and Minnesota deserves a lot of credit. They took down Real Salt Lake in the first round, and then I guess I should also mention that Seattle took down the Houston Dynamo, the team that helped LAFC get the number 1 seed, which is pretty ironic if you ask me. But I digress. So yeah, the top 4 seeds from each conference pretty much advanced out of the first round. And remember, it was a best 2 out of 3 series. So basically you had to win 2 matches of the possible 3 meetings, and yeah, you advanced. And I kind of like that, if you ask me. If you want my opinion, I think that's a pretty cool thing, just because you don't get like a blowout between the 1 versus 8 and whatnot. You have to have, or a 2 versus 7 or whatnot. Like for example, we had the Columbus Crew losing to the New York Red Bulls, which I thought was pretty cool if you ask me. And even Inter Miami lost, which was kind of shocking as well. So yeah, them's the breaks, unfortunately. So yeah, it's New York City FC versus the Red Bulls on the Eastern Conference side of things. And then they've got Orlando versus Atlanta United won the 8 versus 9 match. So yeah, the MLS has been really switching up the MLS playoffs, which I think deserves a little bit of discussion. So 8 versus 9 is basically a play-in match. Then you face the 1 seed in a best 2 out of 3, and then if you win 2 out of 3, you advance. So Atlanta United was number 9 in the Eastern Conference, wound up winning their play-in game against CF Montreal, wound up beating Inter Miami, which was injured to high heaven, and now they're off to the Eastern Conference semifinals where they will play Orlando in a nice little Southern showdown. So yeah, the East is a lot more parity, if you ask me, just because the top 2 seeds are out. I'm sorry, the top 3 seeds are out from the Eastern Conference, which I don't know. I don't know about you all, but I did not have the Columbus Crew losing in the first round. That's shocking if you ask me, but it is what it is. Them's the breaks in terms of the MLS, so there you have it. All right, but that is that for the MLS portion of the show. Remember, all these remaining matches are now single elimination. So if you lose once, prepare to book your flight to Cancun. But yeah, go LAFC, go LA Galaxy. I want to see an El Tráfico semifinal. If so, then I might head down to BMO Stadium. Like, BMO Stadium's not too far from the Galen Center, so I would love to attend that matchup. But I don't know. It's like so. I imagine playoff matches are going to be like super pricey in terms of tickets. So yeah, we'll see though. We shall see. But that's going to do it for the MLS portion of the show. So let's talk a little college hoops. So USC women's hoops is 4-0 to start the season, which I think most of us expected. I know they had a little bit of a scare against Ole Miss to start the season, but they are 4-0 to start the season, which is pretty cool. And they've actually been recently making history. So today, Juju Watkins became the fastest USC women's basketball player and the 4th fastest player overall in Division I history to reach 1,000 points. So let me just edit that real quick. Oh. Yeah, to reach 1,000 points 1,000 career collegiate points, which I think is pretty cool. And then they also scored a program record 124 points against CSUN. Now, before we all start saying, "Oh, well, it's just CSUN," well, CSUN was actually 2-0, 2-0 to going into this game, which I know the Big West Conference isn't everyone's cup of tea in terms of basketball, in terms of like women's basketball or men's basketball, but 2-0 is still 2-0. You are what your record shows, but it's just that CISA just ran into a buzzsaw that night, and then eventually the freshmen and young guns managed to get some playing time for SC as well. So, yeah, for those that are saying, "Oh, well, USC ran up the score on CSUN," no, it just goes to show the level of talent between the Matadors and the women of Troy. So please stop with your belly aching. Anyway, and in that win over CSUN, USC women's basketball coach Lindsay Gottlieb, she managed to pick up her 300th career win. So congratulations to Coach Gottlieb on that one. And here's to 300 more wins for Coach Lindsay. So, yeah, USC has been playing great as of late, and I'm so happy for USC. I'm so happy that USC has a really good women's basketball team. And in addition, Lindsay Gottlieb also managed to continue to make history, as this is the 6th straight year she signed a 5-star player to USC, which I think is pretty awesome sauce right there. So, yeah, a lot of history being made from USC women's basketball, and they are a women's basketball school. I am happy that USC is living up to its reputation. I think they have a big challenge ahead of them, but yeah, SC has looked pretty solid if you ask me, and I hope they can continue to look good. I definitely think they are a fantastic team, and I hope they can build off of last year. I think last year's success was obviously great, but they can't just remain satisfied. They gotta still keep it going. They gotta keep it going. They gotta move past from last year and move on to big things from this year. As they do have a big matchup, which is not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, as they host number 6 Notre Dame. And this one's going to be a big one because this game is going to be nationally televised on NBC. So, oh man, we talk about big-time matches for SC. This is one of them. And I'm glad they're playing big-time matches just because Notre Dame is a very good opponent, as we all know. They're a very good team, and they get to be playing on national TV. So I can't wait to see what USC can do against Notre Dame. Then they've got Seton Hall, St. Louis, CBU, or California Baptist. And then they've got Oregon, which is kind of their Big Ten opener. That should be a fun one. They've got Fresno State, Elon. They're at number 2 UConn, which, yeah, USC is starting to dip their toe in terms of the true talent. There's not scheduling like opponents that they know they can beat. They're not scheduling like local opponents like Long Beach State or they scheduled Cal Poly. They're not scheduling UC Irvine or UC Santa Barbara or Pepperdine or any of those teams. They're not scheduling locally. They're scheduling tough. They're trying to make sure they get their feet wet in terms of playing on the road. And Oregon's a pretty solid team. Obviously, they haven't looked the same ever since Sabrina Ionescu graduated and moved on to the WNBA, but Oregon's starting to make their way back, and I can't wait to see what USC can do. The real big one is when USC plays UCLA. That's going to be fun. And then they got other Big Ten contenders like Illinois, Nebraska, Maryland, Penn State, Ohio State should be good. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun Big Ten debut. And I think USC can really make a name for themselves. Now, I mentioned UCLA, and I don't want to give all the love to SC, even though they've been making history. UCLA, obviously, they've been kicking butt and taking names. They took down Louisville their season opener. They took down Colgate and Pepperdine, which, yeah. They've got Arkansas on Sunday on the Big Ten Network. And then then the following Sunday, being next Sunday, they take on number 1 South Carolina. That's going to be a fun one. And I want to say UCLA gets to face South Carolina after, and this is kind of an NCAA tournament rematch after South Carolina ended their season that a couple years ago. So, yeah. And I mentioned scheduling local. I'm surprised UCLA doesn't have too many other tough opponents like SC does. Obviously, they had the Louisville win. South Carolina's going to be a tough one. I'm looking at their schedule. UT Martin, Fresno State. I'm sounding like Tony Romo. Oh, Jim, I don't know. He's feeling a little Mahomey today. They're at Hawaii. That could be a good test right there, just because Hawaii is always in the mix for the Big Ten championship. At Washington, which is kind of their, which is in the Big Ten. At Long Beach State. I don't know if that's really. I mean, Long Beach State isn't as great as they were last year or 2 years ago, but I think Long Beach State, I just don't see it as a big-time contender match. And then Cal Poly, which, and then Creighton. I'm not sure if they're the best in women's basketball. Yeah, they're not that great. They're only 1-2. So, yeah, UCLA's kind of got a little underwhelming schedule after they play South Carolina. And then it leads up to them playing Nebraska, which should be a fun little matchup. Nebraska had a great run last year. And then Michigan, they're solid, which follows that Nebraska matchup. So, yeah, I think for UCLA women's hoops, they could have some success this season as well. All right, but that's going to do it for the college football or college women's basketball portion of the show. I'll talk some college men's basketball, but for now, later on the show or in future shows. But for right now, I do want to talk some NBA as the Lakers. I want to talk a little bit of Lakers. So Lakers have been playing pretty solid as of late. The interesting thing about the Lakers is they're undefeated at home. I would not expect anything more from the Lakers just because this is the Lakers we're talking about. And they've actually won 3 straight, which is pretty cool if you ask me. Now, last time I checked when it came to the Lakers facing when it came to the Lakers playing on the road trip, they were at Memphis, at Detroit. Obviously, those losses were bad, but they came home. They beat the 76ers, which have been looking awful. They beat the Raptors, which they swept the season series. They've been awful. They took down the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, the Memphis Grizzlies game, that was kind of a get-back game because on the road, the Lakers lost that one 131-114. But this time, the Lakers were able to take them down 128-123. The Lakers actually jumped out to a big lead, and then the Grizzlies were nibbling away at the lead. Anthony Davis gets into foul trouble. Grizzlies start to make a big comeback. D'Lo starts to do his thing. Eventually, the Lakers come back and win. And that's how the Lakers stayed undefeated at home. So now they start off the NBA Cup pool play as they head down to San Antonio to take on those San Antonio Spurs. So Jalen Hood-Schifino is out. Rui Hachimura is out. Anthony Davis is day-to-day. Oh, God, that's not good if Anthony Davis is hurt. So much for Anthony Davis possibly being an MVP candidate. But it is what it is. These NBA Cup games do not count toward the Lakers' record, which is good. And then after that, they play the Pelicans. The Jazz will be another NBA Cup pool play game. Then they've got the Magic and Nuggets, which are both non-pool play games. Then they've got the Suns, which is another pool play game. At Spurs, not a pool play game. And then the versus the Thunder, that's another pool play game. So, yeah. Lakers are currently 7-4. They've won 3 in a row. So I said they've won 2 in a row, but I only mentioned that they were undefeated, but they've won 3 in a row, which is good. It's just baby steps. Baby steps for the Lakers, and hopefully Anthony Davis's injury isn't that serious. And hopefully the Lakers don't get bit by the injury bug because Jackson Hayes also is hurt as well. So he's going to be reevaluated, which sucks. So, yeah. And then next up, we got the Clippers, which they had a 4-game winning streak going into last time I talked about them. And then they kind of lost a couple as they lost to the Thunder, which God. The Paul George trade is starting to look really bad for the Clippers. Oh, Clippers, why'd you have to give up so many assets for that? And then they also lost to the Rockets last night. Or was it 2 nights ago? Either way, they lost to the Rockets in their most recent game. They take on the Rockets again in NBA Cup pool play to start off. So yeah, that's going to be rather fascinating facing the Rockets at Houston yet again. So now the Clippers have a better understanding of what to expect in terms of the Clippers, or in terms of the Rockets. And then they've got the Jazz. I don't know when their next pool play game is in terms of their schedule. I imagine it's not going to be against the Utah Jazz, because that's their next matchup after they play the Rockets, which, Jazz have been really bad this year. So I imagine that's going to be that should be a fairly easy win. The Warriors should be an interesting one. Does not look like that is a pool play game. And then after the Clippers play the Warriors, they take on the Orlando Magic. Now that, I imagine, could be a pool play game. Either way, the Clippers, the Clippers are still in a good spot in terms of the Western Conference, even though it's still very early. They're 6-6, but in terms of the Pacific Division standings, they're dead last, which isn't too bad, and they're 9th in the Western Conference. So here's hoping that the Clippers can turn it around. I can't wait to see what they can do. I think they can be a pleasant surprise this season. They aren't bad, but obviously losing Paul George isn't great. Kawhi Leonard, I imagine, is going to be in and out of the lineup, so you have that right there. But that's going to do it for the Clippers portion of the show. We're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. One more commercial break. When we come back, we've got some NHL to discuss, and then we've got the Dub of the Week. Keep it locked here. You're listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
And welcome back to the final part of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as Let's Whine About DMV Sports, which varies every single week. Sometimes it'll go on Friday, and sometimes it'll go on live on Saturday. I'm not one to talk just because I always move my shows when it comes to this show and Set Point, so yeah. And also check out The Defining Moment. The Defining Moment is back, ladies and gentlemen. I can guarantee you that. And there's going to be a lot of sports that Larry B is going to be talking about. Anyway, so let's talk a little NHL. All right, I hate to tell you all this, but the Ducks are bad. They're bad yet again. They suck. This is disappointing. I want to puke after every time they hit the ice rink. They're so bad. They're actually the worst team in the Pacific Division. The worst team in the Pacific Division. Do you know how bad you have to be the worst team? You have to surpass the likes of San Jose. I'm sorry if I freaked everybody out by staring that close to my camera, but yeah, the Ducks are so terrible. It makes me so angry. I know they played the Golden Knights tough, but they still lost to the Columbus, or they beat the Columbus Blue Jackets, which I kind of wish they had it just because Columbus has been through a lot. They lost to the Minnesota Wild. They lost to the Canucks. They had a 4-game losing streak before snapping that against Columbus, and they beat the Golden Knights. Or they lost to the Golden Knights. So they're back in action tonight when they host the Detroit Red Wings. God, I hope the Ducks are able to get back on track. This has just been very sad. The past few years have been very sad. They haven't had a good season since 2021-22. And that year wasn't even that great. They had 76 points and 31 wins and 37 losses. So, yeah, the Ducks are a complete you-know-what show. And to quote Dwayne The Rock Johnson, it's the biggest piece of dog I've ever seen. But, yeah, they're really bad. There's no debate. I don't want to see any more of this. Anyway, now talk about a team that actually looks pretty decent, the LA Kings. So the Kings, on the other hand, they're still sitting pretty in second in the Pacific Division, right behind those Vegas Golden Knights. So had the Ducks beaten the Golden Knights, the Kings would have been first in the Pacific Division. But no, the Ducks had to play below their competition. And the Kings have kind of been on a little bit of a losing streak as well. They've lost 2 in a row. They lost to the Colorado Avalanche and the Calgary Flames. Both were on the road. They did beat the Columbus Blue Jackets before, and then prior to that, they lost to the Vancouver Canucks. So, yeah, the Kings have been on a little bit of an up and down slide. But, hey, there's plenty of time for them. Unlike the Ducks, the Kings can actually make something happen because the Kings do not suck. So the Kings are back in action when they host the Detroit Red Wings tomorrow at Crypto.com Arena. I was about to say Staples Center, but I know better. But yeah, the Kings have looked pretty good. They've looked better than I expected. I thought they would be toward the around. Well, it's still early, so I can't really judge too much. But I thought the Kings would be looking toward the middle of the pack of the Pacific Division and maybe fighting with Edmonton or Calgary for a playoff spot. And it's still kind of looking that way because Vancouver, Edmonton, and Calgary all have the same number of points. And it's still very early. Seattle has 17 points. Like, anything can happen. Teams can get hot. Teams can get cold down the stretch. So hopefully for the Kings, they're still sitting pretty in that second place spot in the Pacific Division. But for right now, they just got to cross their T's and dot their I's and hope for the best. I definitely think that the Kings are a playoff team. My only fear is they don't play the Edmonton Oilers come playoff time because Edmonton has kind of been their house of horrors. They've been the team that has ended their season the past 3 seasons. 3 seasons. It's disappointing to say the least, but yeah, that's just how it is when it comes to the Kings. I don't get how Edmonton has ended the season. It's ended their season in the postseason. Last year, the Kings lost 4-1 in the first round against Edmonton. Previous year, I think they lost 4-2 and in the first round, and then the year before that, they lost 4-3 in the Western Conference quarter or semifinals, being round 2. Either way, the Kings have had rotten luck against the Edmonton Oilers in the postseason, and here's hoping the Oilers don't cross paths with the Kings, and the Kings can continue to play their great hockey. So yeah, that is that for the LA Kings portion of the show. Yeah, there's still plenty of time for the Kings to make something happen, but for now, I'm hoping for the best when it comes to the Kings. So we'll see. All right, but that's that for the NHL portion of the show. Before we get on out of here, we have to give out Dum Dum of the Week. So anybody can get this Dum Dum of the Week award. As my buddy Kent McKell says, looking good, Teran. Well, thank you, Kent. I appreciate you. It was great being on your broadcast last week, so appreciate you. But yeah, Dum Dum of the Week goes to anyone, can go to anyone for so long as it's a reasonable excuse. So yeah, anybody can get Dum Dum of the Week. No one is safe from this. And we have to go back to the college football scene where I have to give out this Dum Dum of the Week to a certain team that has 3 letters in its name, USC. So USC just recently got fined $50,000, and I think they've been put on a probation where they've been put on a probation. I'm not sure. It should be a postseason probation, but it's some sort of probation. But either way, they were fined $50,000 and they were put on probation because you want to know why? I'll tell you why they got fined and they got put on probation. It's because USC had one too many coaches. I'm not kidding you. USC got fined $50,000 and they got put on probation because they had one too many coaches on their staff. You can't make this stuff up. Why do I even bother with SC in football? Why? How do you have too many coaches on your coaching staff? It's not that hard to count. You should know when you have too many coaches on your coaching staff. Like, oh my God. You just can't make this stuff up. Too many coaches? You should know Lincoln Riley and President Holt. You should know, and your athletic director, you should know how many coaches are on your coaching staff. It literally is not that difficult. Seriously, dude, like, that's frustrating. It's like, that you can. How do you make a mistake like that? You know your limitations for how many coaches you should have on a coaching staff. Like, come on, man. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's why I gotta give USC football Dum Dum of the Week. Even on a bye week, USC football finds a way to take an L. Like, seriously, bro. Like, that's sad, dude. I'm sorry, but USC football is the Dum Dum of the Week. Not because they lost the previous week, but they lost on their bye. They took an L on their bye, being fined $50,000 for having one too many coaches on their coaching staff. Like, come on now, come on, SC. Like, that's sad, dude. It's already been a disappointing year to say the least, and now you keep finding ways to stoop low. So. No, get out of here, you stupid thumbs up. Nope, there's no thumbs up when it comes to that. But yeah, USC football is the Dum Dum of the Week. There's no debate in that. I can't believe you have to be some kind of stupid in order to get fined because of that. I know it's just $50,000, and I know the probation's eventually going to go away. But how do you do that? How do you allow that? USC. Marcus Losgreat may have to drive this USC bus off the cliff again. But that's going to do it for the Dumb of the Week. Yeah, but USC football, you're straight up dumb, dude. For being one of the highest ranked institutions and for being a school that it's really tough to get into because you have to be really smart, USC football did something really dumb. And the fact that no one caught that before the NCAA caught that is beyond baffling. So great job, USC. Way to find a way to take a loss on your bye. But that is going to do it for the Dumb of the Week. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Shout out to the live chat room. I appreciate you. Kent Bickel, Ralph Calise, and Patty Becks. She said Josh Allen for MVP. Well, we'll see. Him or Lamar Jackson can win it. But for everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself an amazing weekend. Enjoy the SoCal sports action. Bolt up, baby. We gotta see those Chargers get a big time win. Also, we need to see the Rams get a big time win. I will see you all on Monday for Set Point. Have a great rest of the weekend. And remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace.